Today, we're asking the question, how might we be a light in the darkness, a city on a hill? Now, at one level, we always want to be concerned about reaching the lost, but we're putting today provocatively the statement that God is not done with Sydney. Background. 18 months ago, at the Sydney Anglican Synod, there was a groundswell of concern amongst the senior leaders of churches in Sydney about our collective drop in attendance. And the Synod called for a report. And in September last year, a report to the Anglican Synod actually said that adult attendance in Sydney Anglican churches had dropped 7%, or 14% against population, over the 10 years, 2013 to 2023. And disclosure, I was Deputy Chair of the committee that produced that report. Now, attendance has gone down at approximately 2/3 of our Sydney Anglican comparable church centres, with 1/3 recording an increase in attendance. So this is the slide that was shown at the Synod, and each rectangle represents a Sydney church and what has happened to that church over the last 10 years. Bright red is an attendance drop of over 20%. Bright green is an attendance rise of over 20%. Light red is a smaller drop and light green is a small rise. The bottom line is 110 centres grew and 189 centres declined. 63% of our churches declined in attendance. Large churches fared badly. We dropped in the 10 years from 21 large churches to 11 large churches. Particularly hard hit were the northern region and the Wollongong region. What became clear in the discussion that followed is even the churches that are growing mostly at the expense of the other churches, a church where there might have been conflict or there might have been poor leadership. And it also became clear, and this is where it really is relevant to us today, that significantly fewer people in our churches are being won to fresh faith in Jesus Christ. Now, 2/3 of Sydney churches take part in the National Church Life Survey, and the most alarming thing to come out of this report, I think, was, we'll put the graph up on the screen. In 2001, when adults in Sydney churches were surveyed, 12.4% of current members said they had turned to Christ in the last 5 years. And you can see that in the circle at the top, 12.4%. 12.4% had become a Christian freshly or had returned to Christ after a significant absence. And people were being saved at a reasonably healthy rate. By 2021, the percentage of people in church who said, I have been saved recently, i.e. within the last 5 years, had dropped to 5.4%. And it's across the board. The churches that were seeing hardly any salvations in 2001 are seeing even less in 2021. And the churches that were seeing a healthy number of salvations they're seeing fewer as well. It became clear to those of us who wrote the report that there are national factors, community factors, and cultural factors that have contributed to the decline, external factors. People talk about this in the categories of the soil. But it also became clear that there are internal factors within our churches. Some of them have to do with the denominational ecosystem. And there are now people thinking about the denominational ecosystem. There's been a committee appointed to especially think about that, and some members of that committee are here. But there are also local issues. Local leadership issues, local decisions, local problems, even local conflict. Otherwise, why does one church grow next door and our church doesn't? Or why is it that the church next door has a high percentage of newcomers and this one next door doesn't? And significantly, the report discovered that members in churches where members were being stretched deeper theologically, where there was growth in Christian maturity, where there was a clear vision articulated, that church also had people more active in sharing their faith, more active in inviting others to church, more genuine newcomers, more genuine salvations. Now, today, our speakers are going to help us in the grassroots issues. It's really going to be a blowtorch to the belly at points as we attempt to address issues in our local churches. One of the questions that was raised early in the report writing process was, do our senior leaders have a problem of head, heart and hands? And today, we're actually going to be thinking about that head, heart and hands. We're going to have extended sessions of prayer. We want to have a weeping for our lost city. There are some convictions that need addressing, and we need to think about our hearts and heads. We want to talk about our hands. There are methodological, organisational decisions that need reviewing, but we're going to start in the scriptures.